Depending on how recently you joined the Hasbin Hotel or Hell of a Boss fandom, you might not know of the old webcomic known as Zoophobia. Now, a lot of people know of Hasbin Hotel. It is very popular these days. A lot of people have heard of it now, but might not know that it originated as a pilot on YouTube years ago. But even earlier than that was a little webcomic that Vivzy Pop made when she was a teenager known as Zoophobia. Now, if you only watch Hasbin Hotel, you have only really seen the Pride Ring. There are 7 rings, and just like a lot of Vivzy Pop's worlds, there is more than just one place. If you watch Hell of a Boss, you will see these other rings, like Sloth and Greed, Envy, which we haven't seen yet, but it's going to probably come in the next season or two, Gluttony, Lust, Wrath. We see all the other rings. And when it comes to Hasbin Hotel, we've not only seen, as in the main ring Pride, but we've seen Earth, like we have seen multiple times in Hell of a Boss. We've also seen Heaven, which we've seen only once before in Hell of a Boss, but we see Heaven a lot in Hasbin. And it just shows you, because these worlds are so connected, how broad the Vivzy Pop worlds can be. And Zoophobia is no exception to that. When Zoophobia started, it was just a webcomic, but it bloomed into this massive world like Viv's other worlds, and this one connects to others. And in my mind, I can totally see Zoophobia coming back and connecting to Hasbin and Hell of a Boss in any way Viv sees fit. If it's not even directly stated, Zoophobia has the ability to just slip right in. Now, for the purpose of this video, I want to go over the comic, what happened to the comic, the media surrounding the comic, and basically just everything like that. I am a big fan of Zoophobia. I have been a big fan of Zoophobia for a long time now. Sadly, I wasn't there when it was being made, but I found Zoophobia right around the time the Hasbin pilot came out. And honestly, I've been in love with it ever since. The comic isn't necessarily long. You can read it pretty easily, but a lot of characters in Hasbin Hotel kind of have their origin from Zoophobia. A lot of them, if it is a drastic change, do originate there, like Alistair, Charlie, Vaggie, Angel Dust, Husk. They all come from Zoophobia. And even more obscure characters come from Zoophobia. Emily and Serpentius, characters who are not one-to-one copies, but they have originated from this webcomic. In Charlie's case, she's only Charlie name only, but like they come from there. Even if the stories are completely different, everything kind of stems back to Zoophobia in some form or another. But I kind of just want to start off with this first chapter being just the actual Zoophobia story itself. Now, when it comes to the first chapter in Zoophobia, we get introduced to Cameron. She desperately needs a job, and she goes and she meets this character named Casey. Right after she leaves her therapy session, she is late and then makes her way to her office to meet Casey and begs for a job. Now, Casey tells her, because she's late. And Cameron, really needing a job, takes anything on the table, even if she doesn't fully know what she's taking. So Casey decides to give Cameron the job, doesn't tell her much about where she's going or anything like that, but learning who Casey is through the Zoophobia wiki page, which, it's a wiki, so take it with a grain of salt. But a lot of this info, because I've been on the wiki for years now, just like looking at things, and just because when I'm bored, I like looking at Zoophobia, because I love this world. But Casey on the wiki seems to be kind of like this deity of chaos. A lot of Viv's old Tumblr posts don't seem to be that accessible, or if they are, I just haven't been able to find them. She shows up a few times here and there in the comic, mainly just as like this way to get the ball rolling, where Cameron is just the main character that we can latch on to, as in this is, she's the first person we meet, she's the first one that starts talking, and we get to easily, as the reader, hook on to someone who's going to be brand new to this world. So Cameron takes the job without knowing what she's getting into and heads to the airport to meet Snake, and Snake takes Cameron over the oceanic forest into the place where she'll be staying the next rest of her life. Because once you're in Safe Haven, you can't really leave. No humans are allowed out, if any get in. Reluctantly, Cameron is now in Zoophobia. Not even reluctantly, she didn't even know, she was kind of tricked. And it seems like Casey, knowing who Cameron is, this was all by design. So now in Safe Haven, Cameron is rightly absolutely horrified. Not only was it a very long plane ride, but when she leaves the plane, she's surrounded by a bunch of crazy characters. With Cameron out of the plane, we are now finally in the world of Safe Haven. And Safe Haven is where majority of Zoophobia takes place. The only time it doesn't take place in Safe Haven is basically the start of the book, and that's it. Now, the majority of this chapter is just learning about the other characters and things related to around where Cameron will be working. So, Cameron, after leaving the plane, she faints, she passes out, and she wakes up finally in the school. I'm skipping a lot of points because I wanted this to be able as a little, like, brief overview of Zoophobia, but there is so much to impact. I recommend just going and reading to see all the little details in here and there. So now with Cameron in Safe Haven and in the school, she gets a chance to actually meet everyone. And the person who really gets a chance to meet Cameron first is Zechariah. When Cam finally realizes where she is and gets a chance to not only meet the principal, who's just a funny little squid guy who doesn't say a single word other than just squid sounds. Zechariah, who is the vice principal, basically is Cameron's guide of sorts. As in, he basically just tells her where she is, what this place is, and that, or whoever she got the job from, the disheartening thing of not actually telling her where her job will be posted, meaning she is now forever trapped and can't return home. Even though she did sign up for a one-way ticket, she didn't know she was getting into this. So, with Zechariah now knowing she was not informed of where she is, he had to break that bad news to her. Cameron, rightfully constantly freaking the fuck out because she's in a place full of talking animals and demons and monsters and, creatures, basically freaks out, which, rightfully so. So Zechariah does, confirm to Cameron that, things do exist in this world. Magical creatures, vampires, werewolves, all of that. But it is kind of funny that he draws the line at aliens and just says, "Yeah, no, aliens they don't exist. Spirits, deities, angels, these all exist, but like, no, aliens, they're not real. We're alone in this ball of the rock." From here, Zechariah gets Jackie, show Cameron around. Jackie being the school's drama teacher. And it's at this point where Jackie is showing Cameron around the school, we meet the main five of the actual Zoophobia story. As in, where Cameron is most definitely the main character, at some point Viv wanted to change the main characters away from Cameron to be the main five that we know it today, being Zill, Kayla, Spam, Jack, and Vanexa. Now, they're all, animals, and these five kids are, all in the drama. It's basically a trade school, so like they're all in the drama branch. And they're all based off animals. For example, Kayla, kangaroo. Jack, he's a dog. Vanex is a cat. Spam is the best thing in this entire fucking comic. He is the best character, and I will fucking die on that hill. You cannot keep me the fuck away from him. I swear to God if you... Anyways, where was I? Oh, right, Zill. Yeah, not really sure what he is. It's more or less he's kind of like this, I don't know, fusion almost. He doesn't even really know what he is either. Jack even states that, like he's like, Zill doesn't even know what he is. But another key aspect, as in they all have their own traits, as in Jack is constantly cursed of immortality, but with that immortality, he is most of the time being pulled apart, shredded to pieces, or just having a piano fall on him like constantly. Spam is the fun goofball in the comic who just, loves licking people because he's just a silly little guy. Vanexa is the one that just doesn't say anything in this entire story. She just stays quiet. And then I don't think she actually speaks until Bad Luck Jack. Liar! Kayla is in a romantic relationship with Zill, and there's an entire chapter revolving around their romantic relationships. Not to say that's all she is as a character. She is kind of like the co-leader of the group, where Zill kind of seems to be the main leader of the main five. But due to how short the comic actually is, there's not time to really spend with these characters and interacting with them a whole bunch. When Cameron is introduced to these main set of characters, this is kind of where almost like the torch breaks in half, where Cameron is still the main character, but we get then from this chapter on spend a chapter or so with different characters. There's a chapter we get with Zill and Kayla, and then one with Jack, with Vanexa and Spam sadly not getting the same treatment. And now we're going to keep doing Cameron stuff, but we'll come back to them. We also get introduced to Damien, who is well, he's literally the Antichrist. He says it himself. He is the son of Satan. Damien is also the cousin to Jack. They're related. So from here, you can kind of start seeing the has-been connections kind of popping up left and right in like some form or another. But as this chapter continues, we kind of get to see more of not only the school, but just of like what's going on here. And right around this point is actually where the chapter ends. With the first chapter kind of at a close, you kind of get a feeling almost for what the story will be. And Cameron is scared throughout the entire story. Yes, kind of, understandable. She is in a place where she is literally terrified all the time because she has zoophobia. And zoophobia is never directly said by name. Like, no one in the story directly calls out the word zoophobia. Jackie later on knows that Cameron is scared of basically everything. But that's not just from her being human. It seems like she maybe told Jackie because even though Jackie looks human, she is a shapeshifter. But it seems like Cameron and Jackie have like maybe the best relationship other than her relationship with Zakari and Fabian later on. But Jackie kind of being the person she spends a lot of the time with in the comic, other than Zachariah, Jackie seems to know that she has this fear of animals. And I think it's kind of nice that it's never flat out stated that Cameron has zoophobia, but it's just like kind of always there. Like I said before, Cameron is most definitely the main character in Zoophobia. There's just no way to slice it. With every chapter kind of from here on out branching off doing its own thing at points, but most of the time they always come back to Cameron. And now with chapter 2, it is basically a filler chapter. It's even labeled as filler, and it's like 3 pages long. It basically just reinforces the idea that Cameron has fears of pretty much everything. But now we're on chapter 3. 3 is where we get into like the more world explanation. So in this chapter, there's a lot going on, but basically half this chapter revolves around Zill and Kayla's relationship, where Kayla is really excited for their 3-year anniversary of actually being together, and Zill has completely forgotten about that and is more focused on the show that's going on, and they want to do this talent show together and, sing a song. While he's focused on that, she's focused on the anniversary. And Damien, who's trying to get with Kayla, just because, if he likes her or not, it's more or less that he's just really into causing chaos. And if he can poke fun at Zill and Kayla, he will. He even says that, going after religious girls is fun for him, which is really funny in hindsight, knowing that she definitely knows he's the Antichrist. And now, like, people who know he's real is like, oh my god, religion, it's real. So, like, Jack is also like, hey, Zill, you're my best friend. You can't forget about Kayla's in-year's anniversary. He wants to remind him, but Damien's like, nah, you're going to stay in this locker for a full week. See ya. So Zill doesn't see his best friend for a week, and it's kind of funny to think about. Like, oh, he doesn't notice that his best friend's been missing. But knowing this relationship, maybe Jack could have definitely gotten hurt or something and just decided to stay home. It's just kind of funny to think about. During this chapter also is when my best friend V's favorite character shows up, Mackenzie. Mackenzie is a human who was adopted by a cat, and she loves cats, tries to be a cat, and like she even hisses and does all these things. But a lot of people just think she's a freak, which is really sad for her, and she has a hard time like adjusting to this whole place. Even though she has, for the knowledge of when you read the comic, she's seemingly grown up there her entire life, and people just don't like her. And there are very few humans in Safe Haven. They even say that. They say like, not many humans are here, and like, we really only see, other than Mackenzie and Cameron, one other human, and that's at like the very, very end of the story, the second to last chapter with Jack. Now in this little talent show, we also get introduced to Gustav, who Gustav, guess, oh my god, Gustav. I can't say his name for some reason. Holy shit. Anyways, we get introduced to him. He's kind of a dick. Doesn't show much more in the story until the very last chapter, but he is basically a dick. He's a student who graduated just a year ago, who come back to help Jackie with the talent show, which seems a little weird. He's generally a dick. Like, I think I hate him the most out of everyone in this entire comic. But Cameron and Jackie, they go off and help with the talent show. The other half of this chapter is when we kind of get to see the cracks and the dangerous side of Safe Haven. Basically, with Zill kind of forgetting about Kayla and his anniversary, she's now ghosting him because she's rightfully upset, and it's kind of crazy that he forgot that. But with her being so upset, trying to have a conversation with him in the hall, Zill has a little interruption with Small Fry, basically a penguin, and it's kind of at this point where you kind of question, hey, what's happening a little bit? It's said in a throwaway line that Zill is a little crime fighter, basically implying that there are crimes in Safe Haven, and Zill stops them from happening. So, because Small Fry won't leave him the fuck alone, he's like, okay, fine, I'll fight you. And mainly just because he's mad, he decides to fight Small Fry. And while he takes Small Fry into the sky, because he can fly, this is when they get attacked by a vampire queen and another vampire. Yes, I know it's a wolf, but it's technically a vampire. He's even stated to be a vampire. Now, with them being attacked by vampires now being in Safe Haven, they decide to attack because they want to taste, blood. And with Zill having such a reputation, they decide to go for him in particularly. And he gets an idea. Okay, well, let's take them back to the school. Already, he had gotten his ass kicked by them because they overpowered him easily until Kayla showed up. But when they decide to take him back to the school, we get a really fun interaction with Damien and Jack. Basically, Damien's like, if you have sex in this person's bed, it becomes like a haunted place. So you rather have sex in their bed and not yours, so it doesn't become a haunted ground. And Jack's just like, why are we talking about this? And then they just got interrupted by just a vampire. And Damien thinks, oh my god, a vampire. That's really fucking cool. And it's just a little funny conversation that I'm really intrigued on. I want to know how they got onto this topic. But like, he's kind of spitting fire. Another reason why Damien is maybe like the best character in this comic, aside from Spam. I literally love him. He's just a chaos gremlin, and that's everything he does. But with them now being in the school staff decided to, take down the threats. We also get to learn that Fabian and Simon know each other, which doesn't really get expanded on too much more in the future, but they do know each other. With the two of them being taken prisoner, this chapter pretty much ends. With the fourth chapter in Zoophobia being, for all extensive purposes, the Hasbin Hotel chapter. Now, it's not Hasbin Hotel, but half of this chapter literally does take place in hell, where we get to see not only Satan himself, demons, and sinners, but in this chapter, the reason I call it a Hasbin Hotel chapter is we get told that there are literally demon gangs, and the west side of hell is like the worst side of hell. You can kind of see from here the sparks of Hasbin almost taking form in a sense. Not until the point where Hasbin fully starts being into development and Zoophobia gets cancelled. But chapter 4 is where these sparks kind of start to show up. I think it's pretty interesting. But majority of this chapter revolves around Damien not attending his private hell school and instead attending real school. And it involves just some fun drama with Damien being just on Earth and his guardians having now been caught in the act of, hey, we all know Damien is up there, go get him before Satan and his wife find out. They have to go rush up to hell. They have to go rush up to heaven. Oh my god. I just said no. They have to go rush up to Earth. There we go. And go save Damien from whatever the thing he's in, even though they know he's totally fine. Like, nothing's wrong up there for him. He only goes to school and he comes right back. And if he doesn't come right back, he goes to clubs and then he'll come home shortly after. They trust him. Damien is in no harm up there. Even with him being the prince of hell, they were able to convince the Safe Haven council to, hey, can we have him come up? I swear, he's not evil. He just needs to learn. Hell might not be the best place for him. So they say okay. We kind of get to see some of these other demons. These little small demons almost look a little bit like Nifty, even though they're kind of like little imps. But the one eye kind of looks like Nifty in a sense. And then this demon, who is named Hilda, looks an awfully lot like Rosie, to the point where you can definitely see Viv took inspiration from her old characters and reworked them into Hasbin in a form. And that's not to say this is the only character, with the other Hasbin cast originating in this comic, and even obscure characters like Hatchet being a character you can find on the Zoophobia wiki. He literally comes from this comic. These characters can also be seen in the pilot, but I will get to that. The other half of the chapter revolves around learning more about Safe Haven. Cameron basically has enough of not knowing everything and demands everyone to tell her where the hell she is and what's really going on, why there are now vampires trying to kill people, and things like that. And they tell her. Basically, Safe Haven, much like Hell in the Helliverse, is separated into 7 districts. Each district kind of has its own theming and vibe to it. Now, granted, I have to take a lot of this information off the wiki when it comes to different sections because we don't get to see any of the other sections in the actual comic that we have other than Hell itself. But according to the Zoophobia wiki, the other sections would revolve around kind of like different cities within the world. These 6 districts being the Animal District, where the young can experience animal life as in animals. This is where Zill and Jack originally meet, where Jack is just a little kid until he can basically it's implied that he just lives in the woods in the animal district with Zill until he goes home when he's old enough. But it never really fully explored on. We probably would have gotten more information on each district as the comic continued. We don't really get that. There's also the capital city. There's the E district, which is basically like Hollywood in a sense. When it comes to the E district, it's described as more dark, gritty, almost noir themed. It's E. It's most likely entertainment, so I always picture it as an entertainment. And when it comes to the photos of these districts, the E city kind of has a skyscraper vibe to it. We don't get much information on these districts, other than there are the 7 of them. Then the other districts being the rural district, where you can see in art a lot of like farmland and open places here and there. Now, the last district that we aren't really fully seeing a lot of is Siracine. Now, we don't know much about this district, if it even is a district. It's basically like this super evil facility that experiments on its residents, and Damien would have been sent there if he was arrested by the police. I should probably expand on that. Okay, so remember when I said that Damien and his caretakers were looking for him because he left his active club and then went into the city and they had to go bring him back? Yeah, so basically he ended up going to this market and was really excited about it. He saw comic books, and like I would, he freaked the hell out and wanted to grab some comics. Now, while he was there, he got yelled at and called a sinner by this definitely not insane man. Basically, he kept harassing Damien and his friends, saying that comics are sins and he will be banished to hell for all the time and all things like that, which sent Damien, after seeing the cross, into an utter frenzy because he is literally the Antichrist and probably can't control his powers as well as others can. So because he goes crazy, he gets the police called on him. After getting shot by them, he goes to attack, but they go and subdue him until his caretakers can show up and defend him. And then when that isn't enough, Big Daddy Devil himself shows up and summons them all home, where he then has Damien and his caretakers have to explain themselves, and the rest of that part kind of, has Damien pleading his case until he's allowed to return back to Safe Haven for school. But he almost gets sent to Siracine and gets experimented on. They even say in the book, tell them to prep, there's another demon coming in. Now, it does seem that crimes in Safe Haven are a real thing. They say that they aren't, but it's heavily implied that the council is probably wrong in the form, or else what they're saying is not the full truth. Because not only does Siracine exist, there is a lot of stuff going on in Safe Haven, vampires and everything like that. But when they are explaining everything to Cameron, it's revealed that not only are there these 7 districts, that there is also this rule set in place where vampires, demons, blood hunters, and other dangerous creatures aren't allowed in Safe Haven itself. And pretty much that has been true until this attack on the school when them trying to kill Zill. That attack being the first one in years, as they say. Still, it's pretty hard to believe, but with them showing up out of the blue, it raises questions. Questions that Simon, when asked about, he can't even give answers to. He just says one day they woke up in Safe Haven, were hungry for blood because they needed something, knew it was a long shot, and still went for Zill. Now, there's only one chapter left in this first book. Zoophobia was going to have multiple books of it, with at least 5 chapters in each book, but there are only 6 full chapters of Zoophobia available to read. But with his last chapter, it revolves majority around Jack, with his first real therapy session with Cameron. It gives us not only Jack and his lore of being a single kid with a single mom after his father died, it also expands on Zill and his relationship to Jack, and it expands on just his relationship with Damien and how Jack is cursed. But it's also very nice to see in this chapter that Cameron has finally started adjusting to her place in Safe Haven. After being constantly afraid, she finally is able to just breathe a little, set up her office, and have Jack as her first real therapy session as the counselor for the school. And it is nice to see that for once in a while she's not actually terrified of something. She generally seems to care. And I think Jack is a very good person to start Cameron off on this because of not only does he have a lot of baggage, but he literally started off by saying, "Nice to meet you. Can I desperately set up a session with you?" So he really wanted to have that, and now that she's giving him that time, they can connect and talk about things. When it comes to Jack, we learn that his father was excommunicadoed, for lack of better words, with his mom then going to her sister and pleading with her to do anything that she can with the help of Satan and giving Jack the ability to not end up because she can't go through loss again like that. And as a wedding gift, Satan decides to grant her wish in a sense. He basically gives Jack immortality with the caveat of he will have the worst luck you can ever imagine. Like, if your day is going wrong, he's had it worse. We also get to see how he met Zill randomly in the woods one day, and Cameron even asks, "Hey, what is he?" And Jack's like, "Zill doesn't even know. I don't even know. No one really knows what he is." It's just nice to see this connection being formed. With this chapter ending with Jack leaving the school, and now there is one chapter left, and it's a chapter that ends annoyingly on a cliffhanger, but this chapter revolves around Addison. Basically, this chapter is just about Addison and her friends, like Damien, and we get a little resolution on Damien with him being back at school. They go to school, and they get a bump into Rusty.
Give it a rest, Ruben. You're acting like a brute.
Hey, you stay out of this, and don't call me that.
What? Your name, Ruben?
Just that? I hate that name.
Well, it's your real name.
It sounds like an old person's name, and I'm very clearly young.
Rusty is just a school bully. He's been a bully ever since kindergarten, basically. This is also where we get to meet, like, maybe my second favorite character. I know I said that probably earlier, but it's like Spam, Damien, and Autumn. These 3 characters are like my absolute favorite. With Spam being number 1, Damien and Autumn are pretty closely tied for 2. He's really insecure about not having his antlers, but he sticks up for everyone. He has the worst ability saying no to things, but he can also be like just there for people in a sense. It's also kind of implied Rusty has feelings for Autumn, but he will never say it. We see later on in the comic, there's a moment where Rusty tries to talk with Autumn, and when Autumn doesn't talk back and just leaves, Rusty has a little bit of blush, and then there's also a pride photo where you can see Rusty just kind of eyeballing Autumn with some other art of them just together. He's definitely having feelings for that deer. But they got this rivalry of Autumn constantly sticking up for people and Rusty just constantly bullying them. But for the rest of this chapter, you got Addison going to class, getting paint spilled on her by accident from Mackenzie. And Addison has this thing of not being touched because they absolutely hate it. Mackenzie, who probably doesn't even know it, accidentally touches Addison and sends them absolutely ballistic. And also, Addison gets the chance to interact with Gustav, and with this chapter ending with them going on a date. We also get to see Tom and Mackenzie interact a little bit in this chapter, and it's implied on like the wiki and other art like this that they will end up at some point maybe getting together. But Damien, at the end of the chapter, rightfully calls out Addison for maybe going on a date with this person who they just met. And the chapter ends with Damien wanting to go get Addison out of this. And then that was it. There was never another panel. It just ended. But at the same time, that's not where it ended, because there's still more to talk about. Another thing that happened was Die Young. Now, this video rightfully, absolutely blew up, and it was Viv's most viewed video on their entire channel. But around episode 8 release for A Hell of a Boss, it got either privated, unlisted, delisted, who knows. Something happened to it and it's gone now. You can only find this video in re-uploads. But this is a music video for the song Die Young with JJ throwing a party, and you can see these characters show up again. It doesn't have much story relevance, but it's just nice to see this, and the animation is absolutely incredible. And that's another thing. If you look at the first chapter of this comic to the very last chapter, the jump in art quality that Viv had is absolutely amazing. Now, I think it's probably time I just mention the connections to Hasbin. Now, when it comes to Hasbin, hell is a thing in this comic and was definitely going to be planned to show up more often if the comic ever continued, but the Charlie and her cast were not as developed for the redemption arc. That was something that was planned when Hasbin got put into development, but Charlie was meant to be a character of sorts in Zoophobia. Not only does she have a drastically different design than the one that we have now in not only the pilot, but also the actual show itself, Charlie has just this entirely different personality about her. Not only is she a sinner, she was also like the leader of the group, like she is in the show, but in a different sense of they seem to be just characters that were in Safe Haven somehow. They don't know how they got there, and on the wiki it stated they were just camping out in the oceanic forest in a cabin. So it would have been really interesting to see where this story would have gone with the ability to have been adapted. Like I said, Charlie isn't the only character to show up. You got Vaggie, who was dating Angel Dust. You also have Husk, who hasn't had extreme amount of changes other than his fur being completely changed and now he has overalls. He's still just a cat. Nifty, Pentius, Alistair. Alistair had a dramatic change. So did Pentius. He's a lot smaller now. When Alistair was being created, his entire thing was he was meant to kind of be like this dark reflection of Autumn. If you look on the old art, there was a lot of art of Alistair and Autumn together, with Alistair literally being labeled as stalking, trying to eat Autumn, and just doing a whole bunch of other things to him until he was changed into being more pilot designed and then Hasbin Hotel itself. How he would have showed up was most likely in the chapter relating around these characters. But also, characters like Mimsy are first here, and Arachnus, along with even some more obscure characters. Not really obscure, but characters you wouldn't fully expect to see, like Emily. Granted, it's in name only, but still, she is technically here. And there are some other angels that are here as well, like Adina. She has a much similar resemblance to the Speaker of God, as in not only do they share a similar outfit to each other, but they look pretty similar, other than the fact Speaker of God is definitely more bird-based. Now, these characters are drastically different than their Hasbin Hotel counterparts, so will Gabriel and Chainsaw show up? Probably not. Most definitely not in this form that they have in the comic. But their inception and design here definitely imply that they were, characters all the way back until Zoophobia, even if they weren't used in the comic. And this is me kind of going over things, but I don't even have the chance to fully there are so many other just crazy things in Zoophobia. For example, Rusty's car is possessed by a demon, and I'm not even joking. Autumn, being named Autumn, isn't just because he's orange. He is also a deity, and his other siblings are also deities, with their father being literally named Father Sky and their mom being named Mother Earth, with spring, summer, winter being his siblings, as in they all control the seasons. There are shape-shifting demons, there are dragons. This world literally can go on. And it's just kind of crazy that all of this is just from a simple webcomic. Like, this was just a webcomic, but it expanded into something to be so much more. And like I said, I was a fan of this webcomic. I literally am a big fan. Named my Minecraft world Safe Haven. My Minecraft base is literally based off of Zoo Phoenix Academy, where the majority of the story takes place. Like, it's not a one-to-one build, even though I am extremely proud of this build. Like, this took me so much fucking time. But, like, this style, this world is so cool, and the fact that it's been slept on for so long is really sad. And now that that has a chance to be changed, which I will get to, I'm so excited for it. But I should get to Bad Luck Jack first. Now, Bad Luck Jack is a short that came out in holy fuck 2020. Bad Luck Jack is basically just a reboot of sorts to Zoophobia. Characters have drastically different things to them, with some characters looking almost exactly the same, like Zill and Kayla, not having much changed. Even though there is definitely a change, they have the similar just builds, along with Jack also having just dog-like appearance. You also have Spam looking pretty much exactly the same, along with Venexa. It's like the main five haven't changed too much. The main character differences come to Autumn, who has a completely different character structure compared to his Zoophobia counterpart. He is now more actual animal themed. I can't decide which one I like more. Like, I love the old comic design for Autumn, but I also love this newer version that he has. Along with Rusty also having a new character design, and all they did was give him a jacket. Like, that's it. He has a jacket, and it works for him. Bad Luck Jack short isn't too much. It's just a short with Jack and his bad luck, like it says. But there are a few fun Easter eggs in the story. There's a moment where Jack is in the library and you get to see a whole bunch of books. Some of them have references to, like, Oh Millie, the song Millie sings. There's one called Yowie. We got eggs on the book. How to Furry. There's even more I'm not even mentioning. But there are a whole bunch of just random books in here. Other design changes that are very minimal but I think work. Jackie has a small redesign, along with Addison also having a bit of a redesign. But Damien looks exactly the same. They literally changed nothing about him, and he's still the most chaotic gremlin ever, and it is the absolute best, giving no notes, -0. Now, the last thing I should probably mention about Bad Luck Jack, other than the fact that it is meant to be a soft reboot, is that Spam is the absolute best. Once again, I swear to God, if any of you fucking think he's not, I'm gonna show up in the middle of the night. I'm gonna. Anyways, I got a little carried away there. But a couple weeks ago, I was just minding my own business. Every now and again, I'll go on Twitter and I'll go on Blue Sky and I'll just type in #Zoophobia. Like a month or so ago at the Level Up Expo, the idea of me making this video came in my head because it was announced by Viv that Zoophobia will be returning. And I cannot wait. I literally cannot wait. I'm so excited for this. Viv said it'll be more of a reboot, even more so than the last reboot of Bad Luck Jack. So, who knows? Maybe things will be even more different. But we don't really know. All Viv said on the panel was that it'll be a mini-series. And, as of recording this, only a couple days ago, even more information was dropped about this supposed miniseries that I literally did not know they were going to drop this, but, it really fits. In the post made by Spindlehorse, they say that Zoophobia will be back, refreshed, while staying true to the heart of the original. A brand new series of shorts will bring fans back to the world of Zoophobia. So, I'm just going to, shred my last page or so of this entire document that I have written. Now that we know it's shorts, I originally planned out in my script that I think Cameron would be the best option to reintroduce this world due to the fact she was literally the first person that we saw in Zoophobia, and she was very easy to have the audience latch onto and experience the world. I still think that's the best option. If they do, let's just say 10 shorts. No reason behind that number. It's a number picked out of thin air. I think Cameron, depending on how long these shorts will be, if they're Hell of a Boss like shorts, less than 5 minutes. Maybe then Cameron for all shorts might not be the best idea, but maybe like 5 or so, just have Cameron be this introduction character. If they're shorts like Bad Luck Jack and range for roughly 10, 11 minutes, which I think, that 10, 15-minute mark would be the absolute best for Zoophobia, then yeah, make one episode for Cameron. Make her the person we introduce to for the world. Maybe make another short based on Cameron having a therapy session like she did with Jack. Have a short based on one of the main 5 cast members. Give one to Zill. Give one to Kayla, Spam, Vanexa, Jack. Like, Damien could even have a short. There are so many possible routes this show can take, and I'm hoping this does well as a reboot, and we get even more. Because the more we get of this, I can't, you can probably hear in my voice, I'm so excited for this show to come back in some form. Even if Viv just gives us a comic again. The last couple of years, as I've been in this fan base of nothing but silence and droughts, have literally felt like I've been going slightly insane. Randomly, Viv will just post like drawings on paper that she's done, and in the corner you'll see a new design for Cameron. In hindsight, now we know that was a sketch she did for an upcoming Zoophobia project. But still, having this drought of not knowing what could be for a world this expansive of Zoophobia, it's been hard. And it's so good to have it come back. I literally cannot wait. Anyways, I really appreciate you checking out this video. Was this an excuse for me to ramble about Zoophobia? Yes, it absolutely was. I'm not hiding that fact. I generally love this comic. It's linked down below if you want to go read it. I'll link the wiki. If you have the time, do yourself a favor and check it out. It generally is pretty good. Is the writing top tier? Not fully, but I think any Zoophobia fan would tell you, hey, yeah, the writing, could it be better? Yes. But this was Viv's first kind of long form thing she's ever done. This is before Hell of a Boss. This is before Hasbin, the pilot, before the show. This is before all of that. Now, the last thing I want to mention before I fully sign this video out. Could Zoophobia connect to the larger Vivziverse, if you will? We know Hasbin Hotel and Hell of a Boss share a world. And Jack has already made his appearance in Hell of a Boss. There's a little Jack plushie, because this is right around the time the Bad Luck Jack short came out, I believe, where you can see a Jack plush on the Christmas presents. If Viv wanted, there is absolutely a way to tie in Zoophobia to this Helliverse, with Zoophobia being set in the Oceanic Forest. That's where Safe Haven is enclosed in. It's a massive forest. They can easily just hide it away there. There's even some magical dome keeping it hidden. Like how Wakanda has that magical mountain of holographic tech. They can put their self in there in some form or another. If Damien is still the son of the Antichrist, and they want to do a different iteration of Satan and not tie it into the show, and like not tie it into the Helliverse, that's totally fine too. Even if they wanted to make Damien the son of this Satan, I would be okay with it. But, hot take, I don't really like Satan in Hasbin Hotel and Hell of a Boss. I think it would be a lot nicer if we got this Satan back, but that's just preference. I'd rather this Satan over the actual show Satan. That's just me, but... Well, this video took so much longer than I expected it to make, and it is so much longer in runtime too. But if you made it to the end, I really appreciate it. I put a lot of work into this. Check out my streams. I stream like every Friday. I'll be streaming on Tuesday by time this video drops, which should be tomorrow. I'll be doing a new expansion for Jurassic World Evolution. So, but if that interests you and you want to see some more content coming down the line, definitely subscribe, and I'll catch you on the flip side. See ya.